There were a lot of them now. I have absolutely no idea. Maybe as few as some dozens, maybe as many as hundreds. But it was just a melee with me in the very center of it, and everyone trying to get in. I felt very strong, felt very powerful, and I'm doing everything in my power to resist them, which was completely futile because there's so many of them. I also noticed that anything I did to them had absolutely no effect on them whatsoever. And I also realized that they were feeding off my emotion, which was terror. And along with this, verbally, they were trying to be as insulting and demeaning as possible. And they're quite good at it. They'd practiced a lot. So there was the verbal assault along with the physical assault. And thirdly, there was laughter.
And then, of course, seeing that light beyond the darkness, and I went into that hall by thinking that, oh my God, I'm bigger than hall. I cannot go to them and think, you are not. I mean, you don't have body, so I'm in light. I'm in light, in total burning, powerful, bright, shining light which goes through you, and you feel you are in light. Light is within you.
The first thing I noticed was that my Rolex watch was missing. And I looked back down at that ambulance and I thought, those guys just stole my Rolex watch. What kind of a scam is this? And I started getting really angry because that Rolex watch was one of my prized possessions. And nobody took anything away from me. And at that point, all of a sudden in front of me, now you've heard the term life review. I didn't have a life review at that point. What I had was an inventory review because that's what my life was all about. And what happened was that in front of me, I saw all of my toys go by me, and as they did so, they imploded into nothingness. The Mercedes-Benz, the nightclubs, the homes, the real estate, all of my toys just went right by me and just imploded into nothingness in the night sky.
I was all, the word that I like to use, I was all spent. Emotionally, physically, I had nothing left. I was just, and people were tired of me because I was no longer of any use to them, of any fun to them. And they, people were coming up to me and very casually, like kicking me. And when people kicked me, I had no reaction. The reason why I had no reaction was being kicked anymore didn't increase my pain because the pain was so great that it didn't make any difference. And I heard myself in a voice that seemed to be coming from my chest, and it certainly was not coming from my throat or my lips, say, pray to God. And since I was a self-declared atheist, I thought, I don't pray to God. I can't pray to God. Second time, pray to God. And I thought, I don't really know how to pray. I mean, even if I were going to pray, I couldn't pray. So, pretty pointless. And then a third time, I heard this voice that sounded like me emanating from what seemed to be my chest say, pray to God.
And then everything is in some kind of movement. There are a lot of bubbles, huge bubbles moving. And there are smaller bubbles. There are molecules as they are dividing into atoms, neutrons, protons, electrons. Movement, chaotic becomes in a movement of spiral. Then I see this as a DNA structure, some kind of movement. It's an amazing feeling.
And just at that point, as I'm still now suspended over this roadway, looking into the night sky, it seemed as if everything in front of me began to churn in a counterclockwise motion. Everything in the night sky and in front of me in that dark road just began to churn. as if it was a field of energy that began to develop. And all of a sudden I saw that this field of energy formed a vortex. And as I'm looking into this vortex of energy, mesmerized, inexplicably I thought to myself, I'm going home.
And I started to say something like, the Lord is my shepherd, for purple mountains' majesty and amber waves of grain. I pledge allegiance to the flag. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, God bless America, land that I love. And I realized, no, this is... I'm getting everything confused here. It's all mixed up, and, you know, things that I had recited as a child. But somewhere along the line, I had muttered a few of these things, trying to remember them. And the people that were around me found it absolutely unbearable that I would mention God. They were using language which was unlike any use of the English language that I'd ever heard before. So obscene, so vindictive, so cruel. And it really made me happy, because I knew that I could get back at them. For the first time, I was able to have some revenge on them. And I also knew that they were receding into the darkness. They could not bear the mention of God, so I'm trying to think of things that have God in it. And I'm shouting them and screaming them. And they're retreating and retreating into the darkness. And I'm shouting and screaming, and I'm lying on the floor of this place, shouting, you know, God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her. You know, like crazy stuff. You know, and all of a sudden I realized I can't hear anything except me. So I stop and I listen, and there's no sound out there.
From the beginning, light was so bright, it was so shining, that no comparison to any bright light bulbs, anything. You cannot compare that. It was bright, shining pain. Immediately I thought to go back to hall and find a hall and run into this shade of darkness, but there was no hall. Light is around, light is everywhere, and you are within light, and light is within you. Amazing feeling of light and love and calmness and rightness. You know, the feeling that this is okay is one, but then there is feeling that this is not only okay, this is right.
And I watched as an ethereal blue being all of a sudden developed in front of me. And very quickly, all of a sudden, I'm standing face to face with a friend of mine who I never expected to see again, because he had been killed in Vietnam. And he simply said to me, everything is okay. And he began to guide me with him. And I realized at that point that he was guiding me, that he was my spiritual guide. And suddenly, I heard this whooshing sound as we entered this vortex. And with my friend next to me, I suddenly found myself out in the universe, out among the stars in the brilliant night sky. And I went to turn around to see from where we had just come, back toward Earth. And as I looked back, I saw that Earth was just another speck in the universe. Now this time when I turned back around, I was suddenly enveloped in this tremendous glowing light, a loving light that just completely enveloped me. And at that point I was alone, suspended in this loving light. And I felt that I was just being filled with the most tremendous form of spiritual love. A love that we can't possibly define in earthly terms.